we have all these people, and it's expensive, to have all these people developing AI technologies. And this vice president said, Ed, you have no idea the amount of millions that we spent on AI, and we're still trying to get it to work. That scared the crap out of me.
Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Ed Durbin, who is Vice President, General Manager, Industry Strategy for Global Retail at Talkdesk, and Michael Klein, Director of Retail Product Marketing at Talkdesk. And we've been trying to set up this conversation for what seems like months, even though NRF was merely a month ago. But having finally done so, thanks to both of you for joining me. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
We had
thanks
fun
for
at
having us.
NRF. Let's keep the fun going.
Yeah, there you go. So maybe just to set some context for this conversation, Ed, can you tell us about your role at Talkdesk? And then Michael, maybe you could do the same. And then, because there may actually still be people out there who are not familiar with Talkdesk, let's just talk about what Talkdesk is all about right now.
Well, thanks. That's a good question. My role here at Talkdesk is, like I said, Vice President, GM, Strategy for Retail. I like to say once a retailer, always a retailer. I have a very heavy background in retail. I've done retail technology companies, several startups. But what I find very interesting when I came to Talkdesk is out of all the conversations that I've had with CIOs over the last 30 years, we've never sat around and said, hey, let's talk about what you guys are using in CCaaS. Let's talk about your contact centers. No, we were talking about what's going on in the data center, what's with the database, what's going on in the stores, all that type of stuff. So I find it very interesting that with my background in retail, I've been able to take all that I've done in retail, and now I'm here at Talkdesk because I want to be able to promote what Talkdesk can do for the global retail marketplace. And, I kid around by saying global, but let's face it, whether I'm in Australia, whether I'm in Hong Kong, whether I'm in Los Angeles, whether I'm in London, whether I'm in, South America, retail is retail. Retailers are trying to sell more stuff to people that come in the stores. So I have the ability of being able to leverage the technologies that retailers need today, especially in the customer experience area, to be able to help their customers. And so I'm bringing my expertise in retail, my history in retail, by being able to identify how Talkdesk can quickly get into and grow their presence across the global retail marketplace. So how was that?
Well done. Great job. As if we would know different. Interesting point though, and I'm looking forward to kind of unpacking this with you a little bit later in the conversation, but how universal some of these problems are around the world with retailers. I mean, some of the things that retailers are still trying to solve for are absolutely universal to everybody else in the world. So if we get to it, that's going to be an interesting part of this conversation. But before we even do that, Michael, welcome. Thank you. And maybe you can tell us a little about your role there at Talkdesk.
So thanks again, Mike, for having us. I'm responsible for Talkdesk messaging, go-to-market, how we present ourselves, how we grow our business. So typical B2B marketing role, really helping drive pipeline, understanding where the demand is, working with our ideal customer profiles, personas, and really supporting our sales organization in helping them do a better job of communicating the great value that we deliver to the retail industry. Similar to Ed, I grew up on the shop floor and spent many years in retail. Then I spent 15 years at Adobe heading up their retail industry marketing. So very similar role at that point. And, Ed didn't bring this up, but Ed and I have been here for less than a year, and we both joined because Talkdesk is very serious about our go-to-market from an industry perspective. We really recognize that in order to differentiate ourselves in the marketplace, we have to be able to speak the language and understand the challenges that our customers have in order to help solve for those problems. And that's really important for us because for both of us, having been in the industry for so many years, there's a lot of tech companies out there that talk about going to market from an industry perspective, but quite often that's just marketing, putting a spin on existing technology. And here at Talkdesk, we have full team in our product in product that are developing solutions. We call them purpose built for retail, and that's all they do. Our colleagues in product are only working on product for the retail industry and helping solve for those challenges with technology.
Interesting. I won't name names, but except to say that at NRF, which honestly was such a blur, was everything happened so fast there. Um, Talking with the retail technology companies that were kind of customer facing, um, you're right. A lot of them have a really neat platform that they're looking to deploy kind of the same thing across industries and verticals and spaces, but they didn't seem to me anyway to have kind of a dedicated vision toward retail, many of them. So
Yeah, we're that is a key differentiator for us. And our three primary industries that the organization has decided to custom build for are retail, healthcare, life sciences, and financial services. And when you think about those three industries, the needs of the customer can be vastly different in terms of the data, as Ed talked about, the foundation of what type of data that we're ingesting. Obviously, in healthcare in particular, the idea of HIPAA and being HIPAA compliant, financial services with regulation, and then with retail when we've got so much different, so many sources of data and legacy retailers that have been uh, leveraging CRM, loyalty, transaction, point of sale, and they have such a spider web of technologies that we need to ingest and communicate with those other systems. So it's really important to be able to build the technology to be able to solve the unique and distinct issues that each of these industries has. And that's, just in going back to what Talkdesk, we have been typically thought of as a contact center, as a software. We have made a shift, and I think also as consumers and retailers make a shift to understand that while I need to run great customer service, there is a direct correlation to what my contact center, what my communication is to customer experience and also to the success of the business. How do I leverage artificial intelligence to automate, to be more efficient, to then be able to drive better customer satisfaction scores, as well as obviously the primary goal for every retailer is growing revenue and bringing margin to the bottom line.
right, right. Well, one of the great challenges, as I'm sure you know, I'm stating the obvious here, but one of the great challenges for anybody operating in CX for the past really ever has been to try and create a direct correlation between CX efforts and a bottom line. And, lots of indirect ways you can point to the successes of CX and how they affect the bottom line, but directly, honestly, probably hasn't been real until fairly recently with our ability to process these mountains of data, largely using AI. And now, wait a second, you can actually see the cause and effect on the bottom line. So it's a really neat moment to be in the CX world for that reason. I mean, you are, and many of your counterparts are, kind of emerging from cost center to profit center in certain ways. So, and I attribute a bunch of that to what's happening in AI. Speaking of which, um, that's what pretty much the only thing anybody really wanted to talk about at NRF this year was what flavor of AI we're deploying and what you can do with it, which I don't know if you were at NRF last year, but everybody had AI, but it was kind of like the big message was we have AI, and that was it. That it was kind of that ended there.
It's still the message.
I mean,
It's still the message.
it is for a lot of people. I was happy to see that there are people like yourselves talking about how it's being deployed and what those effects are on the bottom line and on the actual customer experience, real world experience at the end of the day.
Well, I'll give you an example. So we Talkdesk sponsored the CIO luncheon before their big meeting. 60 some odd retail CIOs. So I was allowed to go up there and say a few words in front of the crowd. And out of the 60 some odd CIOs, I knew half of them, which is great, which goes to validate the fact that Talkdesk is retail. I know a lot of people. Michael knows a lot of people. But the interesting thing is before I went up there, I asked the gentleman running it, I said, what does everybody want to talk about after I leave the room, of course? They said, all they want to talk about is AI. I said, was anybody doing it? He's like, no, they're really not. They're all struggling with how do I take this beast by the horns and what do I do with it? And then
Yeah.
and then I have conversations with CIOs and one CIO is a good friend of mine. He likes to equate it with something that he's been saying to me for 20 years that I've been selling to him. He's like, Ed, don't talk about the shiny new toy. Make sure I have a foundation to manage any shiny new toy. And so I think that's where there's a big plus with Talkdesk because of our platform, our modularity, how you can use and not use it. We're helping retailers with a foundation to be able to effectively do CX, and then where applicable and where it makes sense, leverage in the AI that we have in the modularity that we have as the retail realizes that's an area that they need to go to, that's an area they need to raise the efficiencies of. And so I think me and Talkdesk, and hopefully Michael will agree with this, we are in a position right now that none of our competitors have right now. So I think our biggest challenge and being on podcasts like this allows us to get the word out. Because I think the more people hear it, the more people we talk to, I'm looking forward to our growth in retail over the next few years.
I'd love to hear more about those conversations. You know, it's funny that they only take place in the sidebar conversations. The reality, the real of a company's situation and their struggles rarely happen from the platform, almost never happen at the booth, but the sidebar conversations is where the magic happens, and you seem to have had a bunch of those. So my question is, when you're talking to these CIOs and they're telling you what their real struggles are, I guess you and I have both been around long enough to know that you can't just say, I got your solution, call me on Monday and we'll take care of this. It's a much more complicated thing to do. And oftentimes it has to do as much with platform and technology as it does with culture and expectations, which are really difficult conversations to have sometimes. But like, how do you do it? You're an industry vet. You've been doing this a long time. You've had these conversations. What happens after a CIO says, yeah, I'm trying to figure this out?
Well, I have a very easy formula. I listen to the problems that the CIO is talking about. Then you ask questions about what type of outcomes are you looking for? And then you figure out, well, how can we partner for success to try to get you those outcomes? And now let's talk about those technologies. Because too many people, I mean, I came from VMware and sales reps would walk in the door and go, hey, you want to buy some Kubernetes? You want to virtualize that? Well, would you ask me what my problems are? So, I really think, and with a lot of the CIOs that I talk to, they appreciate it when you sit down and listen to them and understand the outcomes. I've been using that word forever, but in the last few years, all of a sudden, oh, we got to talk about outcomes and making our outcomes. I really, really feel that that's the key. Listening, understanding, figure out how we can partner, and then whatever that technology is, and again, it goes back to Talkdesk, we give you a great foundation, and whatever that AI, that shiny new toy that I mentioned earlier, where that fits into the foundation is best going to help them. Because every CIO tells me, says, you know what, you come in and help me do something quicker, faster, under budget, and it's going to help my outcomes. I will use your pen and sign the deal. So it's easy to say that, but it does sometimes boils down to that easy, but you got to be talking to the right person. And the
Yeah.
right person is usually CIO, CDO. I mean, Michael, the personas that you and I have been talking about, where do you see in the angles of who you're talking to? Because he was on like one side of NRF, I was on the other side. We were sort of like, hitting it from both sides. But at NRF, what were the type of personas that you were talking to that Talkdesk resonated? Is it okay that I was asking questions there, Mike?
It's okay. It's okay. I'm going to step away for a cup of coffee. I'll be right back.
Yeah. So yeah, I have a couple of definitely thoughts as I was listening to Ed talk, and I agree with that we're in this phase of AI where we've gone from a lot of hype to what is this actually going to do for me? And specifically to what Ed was asking, I was in the digital council where Ed was over at the CIO council. So those folks are more of the marketers, the chief digital officers. They're on the business side more than on the tech side, and they're certainly looking for technology to be able to help them drive their key business outcomes. Um, but I would challenge the conversation with this idea that we've been dealing with AI in some way, shape, or form for more than a decade. And that being the idea of predictive and interpretive AI. Um, IDC, I always quote this. I was at an IDC event last year, and by 20 and 2 years, we're still going to see that 70% of the AI that we use is still what would call the traditional AI, that being the predictive and the interpretive. But the new bright and shiny is all around the generative AI, which was 2024 was the year of Gen AI. This year in 2025, we're going to see agentic AI as the big buzzword this year, and agents. Um, we've introduced agents into our solutions. Um, and Talkdesk, we've been doing AI in some way, shape, or form since 2018. So I think that there is a bit of a learning curve of what is the AI that I have. The AI that I've been using isn't going to get thrown out because it still has value. And again, it's what is the right hammer for the right nail. And you can't just have one hammer for all the nails. They don't all look the same. And that where some of the challenges come in, and the conversations that we have, and I have, and some of those sidebar is, I've been doing this, and do I need to change doing that? Because I've already kind of played around with AI a little bit. It helps me understand where my inventory needs to go. It may help me understand next best offer. But with this Gen AI and agentic AI, where does that fit into the equation? So that's kind of the other, I think, side of this conversation of how do I take what I've been doing and then adjust it to this new world of Gen AI and agentic AI? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, very much. Thanks for that context. I'm thinking to another part of the conversation that we touched on anyway at NRF, and that was not only how Talkdesk is deploying and how you're really seeing the idea of AI out there, your vision for it, but also how consumers are responding to it. It's a really big deal. And I think your team had sent over some data that said, I'm kind of pulling this out of thin air, so I could be wrong here, but it was something close to 90% of shoppers that your team surveyed had engaged with some sort of AI technology during the holidays, and the number was the percentage of those people that responded positively to it was giant. It was just giant. I don't remember that number, but it was.
Yeah, so I have those numbers if you want them.
Yeah. Throw them out there. Save me.
Yeah. So what we did in marketing and with our partners at Shift is we did a survey of both retailers and consumers before the holiday season to understand what they expected to do. And then what I always like to do is then I want to understand what really happened. So right before NRF, we literally pulled aside 1,000 customers, talked to them in the first week of January so we could bring this information to NRF. And what was really interesting is that 7 out of 10 of the consumers we spoke to said that they're going to be using, more than likely using AI in some way, shape, or form for their shopping in 2025. And 6 out of 10 told us that because of their AI experiences during the holidays, their expectations for customer experience have increased. So whether it's the type of service I get, the ability to find my order, getting to the right product at the right time, using product search, all of these different capabilities. And one of the primary reasons, which again, no big surprise, no big aha here, but a lot of consumers are using AI to find the best deal on a particular product, right? I mean, everyone's always looking for, we always know that one of the primary criterias for a consumer purchase decision is price, especially if it's an item that's available at multiple retailers or there's a like version somewhere else from another brand. So those those criteria will always shift a little bit depending on the demographic and the category. But we certainly see experience, price, and convenience continue to bubble up on why a consumer is going to shop from a particular retailer. And AI can help with all of those.
I guess where that statistic, that set of statistics pointed for me was that because an overwhelming number of consumers are now using AI for their own utility purposes, they're overwhelmingly pleased with the outcomes there, that it presents a pretty compelling case for retailers, almost any vertical really, to jump on this bandwagon and get it right quickly, because those expectations aren't going to shrink. They're just going to continue to increase. And there you go. You can't see this because it's an audio medium, but Ed was making the universal signal for it's all about the money.
An audio medium, then why did I put on a proper shirt for this?
You look so good too. I'm just going to state for the record here, Michael looks smashing. So,
Okay.
And so do you, Ed.
Well, he was on a call with me an hour ago, and I wasn't wearing the shirt. So
should I go into that my little money? Should I go into that a little deeper for
Well,
you?
you gave me a visual cue. I had to take it.
Sound effect.
Yeah. So talking to a customer, current customer, great customer, using our platform, trying to figure out again where our AI that we have today will fit into, and meet some of their requirements to get them some of their outcomes. And we were talking about, how Talkdesk has grown. We have all these people, and it's expensive, to have all these people developing AI technologies. And this vice president said, Ed, you have no idea the amount of millions that we've spent on AI, and we're still trying to get it to work. That scared the crap out of me. To hear a retail vice president say we are spending millions on AI and we still haven't figured it out. It's almost like I wanted to go, well, what, let's work together because we already have it. It's already working. People are already using it. And let's try to figure out where that leverage is. And so I think that's where the opportunity is of going out to these retailers that are like, because everybody and their mother, started getting budget money to do AI. So like Michael said, we've been around for a decade. What they're trying to do, we know retailers, they don't do things fast. They usually spend too much money. It takes way too long. So I think there's a great opportunity if we get the word out correctly and we position this correctly, that retailers that might have some type of AI today, that they could work with us to leverage our fuller package of AI to help support and make their AI more efficient. And maybe they'll spend less millions of dollars developing it and maybe spend it with me.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well,
since I'm the survey guy,
Let's go to the survey.
Yeah. So our pre-holiday survey, we did speak to several hundred retailers, and a couple of interesting data points from those surveys and those conversations is that 56% felt that AI was going to give them a competitive advantage. Uh, but there weren't 56% using AI yet. So we wanted to know first who thought that this was an advantage, and we still only see 1 out of 2. So not everybody has bought into this. And then we wanted to know, well, if you haven't started to invest in AI for your business in some way, shape, or form, why not? And the two things that clearly came out of that were budget and resources. And resources being having the skills internally to be able to take advantage of the technology.
Yep.
So a recognition that I might not have the resources or the budget of some of the big boys, and we know who those are,
Sure.
the Amazons, the Walmarts, the Best Buys, Home Depots, etc. And also understanding and having a self-awareness that I don't have the right people in place to do this now, and that I need to figure out first before I go and invest in all this technology.
The answer to this question would solve a lot of stuff for a lot of people out there. But if it is a people question, if it is a people problem, we don't have the right people to manage, deploy, and fully leverage this technology. Who are those people? What is it they're looking for? Because you don't just go out and put out we need an AI specialist. That means nothing. So in your world, you're talking to CX leaders, you're talking to people who are trying to optimize for the full customer relationship out there, and they need to solve for a people problem to get the right people there to manage these kinds of things. What are those positions? Who are they looking for? What would be the job title or job description for somebody like that could come in and solve for that?
That's a good question because you have some retailers out there that love buying, and you have some retailers out there that build everything. And
Yeah,
and you probably know who some of those are. I do know that a very sought after position is data scientists,
sure.
to be able to have that as a core. But I mean, these titles of AI guru, AI Sherpa, they're just popping up all over the place. But it also pops up all over the place depending upon the industry. When it
Yeah.
comes to graphic arts, when it comes to transportation logistics. So I guess it's it boils down to I do not know what the criteria is to say I am fully knowledgeable on agentic AI. Please hire me, but by the way, I cost a lot of money. I think a lot of retailers are taking the people they have today saying, "Hey, all that stuff you guys did on Gen AI, well, guess what? Now we need to move into agentic." So I hope I have the knowledge base that can move into the phases of AI to get us where they are today. And I think there's a lot of that going on versus going out and hiring, bringing people in. Of course, there's plenty of the GSIs out there that'll be happy to come in and do it for you at an unbelievably extravagant price. Not to
Right.
talk down about our friends, but no, I think a lot of that has to do with I think most retailers are just pulling that knowledge base through what they already have today into creating more of what they have.
Yeah,
So
I'd
go
like
ahead.
to add that I think this is going to evolve, and I'm going to give a very specific example. So last year, and at the end of 23 as well, there was all this conversation around the job title of being a prompt engineer, right? So being able to understand how do I actually speak to the AI to get the results I want out of it? And then I had to be very knowledgeable of how the AI actually behaved in order to get the results that I was looking for. And today, at least what you're seeing in 2025, when we think about agentic AI, there's conversations, and this was a very specific sidebar conversation I had at NRF, is this idea of prompt engineering may become extinct because as AI becomes more intelligent and more natural language and more agentic, I can just be a business person
Yep.
that actually
Yep.
understands what I want to have as an outcome and I can speak to the AI that way. And as the AI evolves, then I'll be
There's your
able to get
answer.
the outcomes I want because it now is all about natural language. I always love to use the example of 10 years ago when Amazon came out with the Echo and Alexa, it was a really poor experience. And that's because we didn't know how to speak to Alexa. And now, because if you weren't very specific, it was like, sorry, I don't understand. But now you just have to speak to it and naturally, and it understands what you're looking for. So I think there's going to be a constant evolution of what those roles are. Um, and maybe this is me thinking of just, my own career and how things have evolved. If you understand the business, you're willing to learn and you're willing to expand, those are probably the kind of people that you're looking for your business. That there's the idea of being an athlete, a business athlete, and really being able to exercise different muscles. I think that's probably the type of people that are going to best suit your business as things change and evolve. And you don't need a bunch of data scientists everywhere. Of course, you need some, but I would say that's not the future of the general growth path of the people.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
completely agree.
look when web developers was huge. Before the web, there was no such thing as a web developer. Then all of a sudden it's like internet. Oh, I need a web development. And a lot of those people moved into those positions. But that evolution, I agree. And I think there's a lot of retailers out there today that have great people on their staffs that are hungry to learn for that. And those are probably some of the best people that they have.
Yep. Yep. Ability to learn, grow, and morph as situation dictates. Well, Ed, Michael, I really appreciate this. It seems like because of all the effort we expended to make this conversation happen, we should be talking for the next 2 hours, but I don't feel like that's legitimate or kind to your schedules. So, but I would like to get together maybe as a follow-up, give it another 6 months or 9 months or something like that, because I think it'd be really interesting to hear how Talkdesk's approaches have evolved over that period of time, because the evolution in AI, the capabilities of it are expanding so fast that, what we see now, right, we could all be prompt engineers of yesterday and 6 months from now. So would love to see how that looks when your times and schedules permit. But for now, thanks a million. Really, really appreciate this.
Well, thanks for having us, and I look forward to our next conversation so we can talk about all our successes.